Welcome to the Total Wireless Store, where total confidence awaits.
Music powers my morning runs, but data overages slow me down.
Don't worry, you got this with the Total Wireless Store. Just bring your number and get 10 gigs of lightning-fast 4G LTE data with unlimited talk and text for $40 a month.
I'd run to the Total Wireless Store right now for that deal, if I wasn't already here.
Data girl.
Discover the Total Wireless Stores and get total confidence. The latest phones, the best network, all at great prices. Excludes TracFone Wireless Inc. brand sports. $40 plan must remain active to keep bonus data after 12/31/18. Terms at stores.totalwireless.com.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Aquarian Radio at aquarianradio.com. And today we are doing an episode of Aquarian Radio. It's called Cool People Catch Up with myself, Janet Kira Lessin, Reverend John Polk, and Karen Christine Patrick. And Karen writes, all cool people because they've got some amazing things going on and really want to share with the other cool people. And you Aquarian Radio listeners are going to find out what's been happening lately. So let's begin with Karen. Come on now.
Hello.
Check in. So what's going
Hello,
on?
yeah. No, I've been wanting to do this show a while now because since the end of May, beginning of June, all the way up till going into next month, all three of us have just had a whole heck of a lot of stuff going on, and I wanted to hear from all of us, you know, what we've been doing and what we're going to be doing, because there's some wonderful events coming up, and that's why the idea of the show, for sure.
Excellent. I love it. John, what do you think? What's happening with you?
Well, you know, we were going to talk about this last Friday, but you didn't feel well after going to Contact in the Desert. And from what I heard, a lot of people got laid up, got sick. I heard Mike Vera couldn't even do part of his presentation. You know, I mean, I know you live in Hawaii, but living in the desert, I mean, I live in Florida where it's hot enough. We have different heat. You know, at least it's humid here, which is not comfortable. But the dry heat's like, you know, being in an oven, literally. And I can see how it made a lot of people sick and under the weather. I mean, a lot of people didn't feel well. But it enabled us to interview Casper Parks for 2 hours. And I thought he did a really good job, and his book concepts are rather incredible. But, yeah, I got a lot of things going on, too. But I'll hand it back to you until we get back to the round table to me to do it.
Okay, yes, I was really appreciative that you were able to pick up the ball because I was dropping in. I was really sick. It felt like flew like this, but I think we got literally cooked out in the desert. They have these at the Contact in the Desert. They have these wonderful outdoor stadiums, and they have this kind of covering over the whole thing, but it's not sufficient. I think if I were running this facility, I'd have some fans going to keep the air moving because it gets kind of stagnant, and you're out there. You get so wrapped up in what's going on. You're out there for 2 hours. Sometimes you're just going back to back. They have a lot of discussion panels, which I like because you could catch, you know, 5 or 6 of your favorite presenters on a panel instead of having to go to the individual presentations. And then a lot of times they have 3, sometimes 4 tracks, presenters in different little mini theaters, and there's 2 large theaters, and so you can't even keep up with what's going on with them because they get into these different workshops and presentations, and they're all simultaneous, so you have to choose, which I hate to have to choose like that, but then again, if you go see someone that's not quite what you want to experience, you can just go to another one. So that works that way. So, yeah, it took about a week for both of us to recover fully, and then on top of being jet lagged. So we're fine now, and thanks, guys, for doing that. Who wants to share first? I guess, Karen, you go first, and tell us what's happening in your life. So, and, do take the baton for good 10 minutes or something, okay?
Okay, yeah. Well, it's the first, excuse me, it's the first of the month. We went with, Brett and I, my partner, Brett Colin Shepard, and I, have been working with Dr. Ken Johnston Sr., who is famously known for absconding with, under the radar technically, a large number of NASA photos that were ordered to be destroyed, and through a loophole in his instructions, he basically took a set, and a lot of researchers are really glad he did. He was kind of well known, brought out in the public in the book Dark Mission by Richard Hoagland and Mike Barra, and basically this gave people a chance to look at unaltered or unmanipulated NASA photos of the Apollo years, which was very startling. Brett Colin Shepard's a fantastic anomaly hunter. He's not real well known at it because he's just been quietly just kicking it. I think he had one of the best anomalies of last year. If anybody saw the Jupiter 2 UFO on Mars, that was a heck of a find. It was basically like a parked UFO on the surface of Mars in one of the European Space Agency photos. It made the rounds. But he's been working pretty diligently on lunar type of photos, which, basically all anomaly hunters are working from a database. They're working from a database apparently that's been manipulated by NASA. One of the things we've seen NASA do lately in their database is reduce the resolution. So they basically don't like it when people find weird stuff in their pictures. So what basically has become Team Ken's Moon, because that's the name of the project, Ken's Moon, is that Brett and I have been helping him create a 3-book ebook series, 3-book ebook, I didn't know that rhymed, and it's basically his autobiography, so in his own words, his own experiences becoming a 3-time participant in the Apollo program, first as a test subject. He happened to be a body double for John Glenn, so he wore the spacesuit and helped them work out how to get in and out of the lunar module, and worked out problems. One time they overpressurized him, and he got kind of squished by the thing, by the suit. He had marks on him after he took that astronaut suit off, so that had some scary moments there. It's very extreme conditions that they had to prepare for. Then, right as the first manned mission to the moon landed, the Eagle has landed, a whole bunch of people got their pink slip because the NASA in its infinite wisdom, much like any other military operation, basically changed directions from regular missions to getting ready for it. And he was in the preparatory part. He picked up another job at the Lunar Receiving Laboratory, and that's where he was his job was to maintain 5 full sets of photos that were available whenever scientists said, hey, could I see, some information on moon rocks, or, a picture of a particular mission, or all that. He basically had these big filing cabinets that he was in charge of at the Data and Photo Receiving Laboratory, and that was his job, was to keep track of all this. Well, one day, NASA, his boss, comes in and says he's got word from on high, get rid of all 5 sets of photos, which makes anyone who's an historical kind of person, it's like burning the Library of Alexandria. There's a bit of a gasp right there. You're kidding me. But that was the order. And, Ken argued because he said, well, why don't we send these to some universities and preserve them? And the guy goes, I don't care what you do with it, just get rid of it. Well, there was his loophole. I don't care what you do with it. So he took one set that he did donate to a university, and that unfortunately that set of images was lost. And he was able to keep a set for himself, which has had some attrition over the years, but he has quite a bit of it left. And he's just had it in his possession, moving all over the country as a military person. Eventually from Washington State, after working for Boeing and retiring from Boeing, he ended up in New Mexico. And he's just, now what? It's the digital age. What do we do? So Brett and I came along. He actually brought us from Texas to live here in New Mexico, so we could scan this DMS and put it in digital format and get it into CDs and on. If you go to kenjohnstonmedia.com, you can get the instructions to find the ebooks of the different projects, the different books that we've done, and download them. And it's been terribly exciting. So anyway, we're still trying to think of ways to preserve this. So I said, I've got an idea. Why don't we go check out the Research Center in Roswell? Because they have a wonderful museum there, but they also have a research center there, UFO Museum and Research Center. So that actually came about at the beginning of June. We went down there. We were received wonderfully, got a tour of the place, and I got to see the facility where they keep so many really cool artifacts. Wonderful library. I mean, every book you can possibly imagine on UFOs is in their collection, and it's not a small collection. It's amazing. And we got pictures with the director and with the people that manage the center there, and it was a wonderful opportunity. And we, as a team, and Ken, got asked to come back 4th of July weekend when they had the UFO Festival, and Ken will be speaking Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so we're going to go with them and man a table, and we'll have a CD available. But this is terribly exciting. Brett has found some wonderful anomalies that an appendix in the autobiography book of Ken Johnston. I actually found one anomaly, my first major one. I'm very excited because that's not usually my thing. But I happened to be looking at a picture, and boop, there it was. And I'll be sharing about that in the future, and hopefully get a white paper written up as well. So it's been about the moon, and we can talk about the conference, but I want to give somebody else a talking stick, and we'll talk about the conference. I'll be doing something about the Anunnaki in the moon. So go ahead, John, I guess.
Excellent. John.
All right. So on the 24th of last month, Karen and I talk, and we talk quite a bit, off air, just as friends and business also. We're, in constant communication with each other, especially since she's working on my next book, The Blue Beings Visitation at the UFO Conference. And she brought up Michael Lee Hill and told a very engaging story that I probably shouldn't repeat, so I'm not going to. But anyway, we talked at length. We talked at length about Michael Lee Hill and the fact that he and I have a lot of things in common. For example, we both know that we're connected to the Anunnaki. That's for sure. More than likely, have Anunnaki blood coursing through our veins, and have a kinship and a relationship with Anunnaki interdimensionally and here on the 3D physical Earth plane, and have both been abducted and both see UFOs at quite a clip. And so a number of years ago, I got a digital camera, cost about $2,000. And I had seen so many UFOs that I'm like, I must get a camera. I got to start capturing this on film. And I buy a Canon, whatever series number it is, really nice camera, and I don't see a UFO for 6 months. I set up the tripod outside, don't see anything until I put the camera away. I put the camera away, then I start to see things again. So it was pretty clear back in 2014 they were not going to let me capture them on video. So I kind of just let it go. I probably didn't even use the camera for a year. And then that night, after I talked to Karen about Michael Lee Hill, and she said, I got to get you two together. I got to find a way to get you two on the phone and let you all talk with each other. And so that night, I've got a room that is next to my backyard. I like to spend a lot of time in there because I can pop in and watch TV, pop outside and look at the stars, go in and out, and I do it off and on all night, quite often. And this particular night, right around 10 o'clock at night, I look out into the sky, and over my neighbor's house, I see a couple different colored lights. So now I'm thinking, well, are they lasers? Are they coming from the theme parks? Are they this? Are they that? I'm trying to science them away, That's the first thing I do when I see something anomalous. I see a red light on one side, and probably about 100 feet directly horizontal to the right of that light was a green light. So red light and a green light. And they're at the same elevation, if you will, and they're not moving. But after a while, they started to move, and I'm like, I got to go get my camera. So I run and I go get my camera, set up the tripod, and whatever it was allowed me to videotape it. It was really cool. And then I watched it for over an hour, and probably 45 minutes into that hour, I got to the point where I could feel myself moving the lights. I would move my hand up and down. The lights would move up and down. I'd stop moving my hand, the lights would stop moving. I wish I'd figured that out in the first 5 minutes, but I didn't. And I captured the whole thing on video. It was the first time I'd captured something that good on video. And I know that it had absolutely everything to do with my conversation with Karen. So I called her the next day, and we talked about it, and we both agreed, I'll bet you it had something to do with that. So that's my connection with Michael Lee Hill, even though I've never met him before. I know both of you done interviews with him before, I think probably even multiple times. But also our collective conscious connection with the Anunnaki. I know there's something to it. And then, so then we started working on this PowerPoint. I believe it was probably a week ago. Karen gives me a call and says, hey, somebody dropped out of this conference. Do you want to be a part of it? Actually, it was Saturday of last week because I was at work. And I said, yeah, absolutely. And she said, well, we need to, be gangbusters on this and get you a PowerPoint done as soon as possible. So I said, well, I do have the first one from the one I did at the Experiencers Speak 4 UFO conference last year in August. And I said, well, maybe we could put parts of that together with a new one. And we both agreed on that idea. So we took a few frames out of the old one. She added in a couple of frames because the name of my topic for tomorrow is going to be Enlil, the Biblical God. And Karen found some brilliant clip artwork, which I really like, and added some text to it, and it just looks really good. And then in the middle of the presentation, we flip the script and go to the Blue Beings visitation at the UFO conference. And it does end up becoming cohesive, and it does flow because Karen and I have both concluded that the Blue Beings that I saw and 20 other witnesses saw at the Experiencers Speak 4 conference are in fact part of the Anunnaki or were sent by the Anunnaki, because one of them, who looked curiously like Jason Martell, an ancient alien astronaut theorist who's on Ancient Aliens all the time, one of the beings who was not blue looked pretty much just like Jason Martell, except he had these big black eyes, void of color. You know how people will have whites of their eyes? He had no whites of his eyes. His eyes were bigger than that of a normal human, and they were all just black. Black as empty void of space. It was a total trip. And he walked up to me once I decided I was going to take out my phone and start taking pictures. He walked to me right then, and I'm positive he read my mind. He walked up to me, and he looked at me with those deep, dark, abyss kind of eyeballs and said, the Anunnaki, the Anunnaki, the Anunnaki, the Anunnaki. And I know it was a trigger mechanism to set off and administer the alien anesthesia in me so that I would experience a state of paralysis and not take a bunch of pictures of these blue beings that were standing right next to me. So this whole presentation that Karen has helped me put together, I think is going to go over really well. And it would not have gone over, or won't go over well, without her help as my publicist, editor, and web designer. So special thank you to Janet, Aquarian Radio, to Neil, who did a masterful job walking us through the Zoom program today, and of course Karen Patrick, my partner in publications for the rest of my life. So it's been real busy. I'm really tired right now, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I can't wait.
Great. That's wonderful. A couple things I wanted to talk about. Yes, our Anunnaki connection. I've always say I identify very strongly with Nima, where I am Nima. I know Michael Lee Hill. He says he is Enki. Part of my research is that the Anunnaki are able to put their original form in stasis and send threads of their consciousness down and simultaneously incarnate or emanate or whatever, however you want to say it, in many places at once. So what's happening in our psychotherapy practice is sometimes we get a number of people saying, I'm Enki, I'm Enlil, I'm Marduk, I'm Toth or Toth. And so we were struggling. Dr. Lessin and I have been struggling with that for years. We've been researching the Anunnaki stuff going on 20 years now, and from the get-go, from the beginning, and it's like, okay, well, this was somebody else, the person telling you that I'm Enki or something is crazy. But we don't view it that way. We realize there's something going on. So by staying open-minded and reflecting on the phenomena we've been led by higher consciousness to this book called, what's it called? It's by the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And he describes how he was initiated by the Galzu, who reside in the halls of Menchi, which is probably part of the underworld or the hollow earth, the cities that are down under the earth. There's a lot of information coming forward now about the different colonies and peoples and entities and types of being that reside inside the earth, and that's a common phenomenon for beings to reside in the earth. Actually, what's uncommon is for beings to reside on the surface of the earth because it's far too dangerous in many situations for life to live on the surface. So the inside can be very pleasant and have all the appearances of the outside with skies and weather and beautiful greenery and rivers and mountains and the whole thing. So anyway, he was down there talking to the Galzu, and they took him as an acolyte, and he studied, and at one point he learned how to dissolve his molecules body into its very tiny molecular form and travel through the cosmos in his astral body or spirit body, or however we describe it. And then when he came back into his physical body, they said, well, now that you've become one of us, what is your work, Thoth? And he said, my work is to help humanity ascend and become conscious and enlightened and be able to do things that I do. So here we are. This is 7,000 years later. And what he said was that the next phase was he put his body in stasis, and he was sending himself down into human form. He wanted to know what it was like being a human. So he came as the thrice-born Hermes. And he was actually born, went into the womb and was born of a human female, or maybe it was an Anunnaki female, but he decided to come down through the birth process here on Earth and come out as a child and experience some time in a human form and what it was like to be these people that are walking this earth and having to deal with the daily traumas of life. So that was one thing I wanted to share, is that I'm aware of Michael Lee Hill and myself and many, many, many other people who are emanations of one of the major, and it's not always easy. You have to deal with it, but they're handling it and bringing forth incredible information. So, John, if you're identifying with that, then that's probably what's going on. And don't let anybody shame or talk you out of it. Just go with it. The more you go with it and you own who you are as your highest emanation of yourself, then you will be able to be more effective in helping humanity evolve to this next level of consciousness and awareness as we go through the quote-unquote ascension process in the end of the Yugas into the age of Aquarius and enlightenment. And there was something else you said, but I can't recall what it was. I'll pass the talking stick on to Karen for a while. Thank you for listening.
Wow, that was very broad and sweeping in scope, and fantastic that you shared that, because I have an Anunnaki connection. I have a bloodline family connection, definitely through being part Native American, being Celtic Irish, and as a result, I have a shaman combo, druid combo, set of abilities. And I've been spending time, basically, when you have those abilities, you can test and learn things. And as I'm going through this thread of, communication, I ran into an Anunnaki ancestor back in 2010. And it turned out to be a deeply rewarding experience because, yes, they want us to know these broad things about humanity, but sometimes they want us to learn how to deal with our personal issues. This is exactly what happened. So basically, I was at that time making contact with quite a few different. I finally opened myself. I didn't have that belief system in place, but I opened myself to say, okay, whoever's there, come on through. We'll talk and I'll learn. My first contact was the Native American grandmother, a Native American grandfather, and several alien species. But this this very profound connection with my alien ancestor, my Anunnaki ancestor. Probably moved me the most and got me on this path. And I don't know who he is. He's given me a name. It's not my name, not a name of anyone in the Pantheon. I think it's a pseudonym. And the other thing is I will be talking about this at the conference tomorrow. I wanted to share it for a long time, and the opportunity came up in our slideshow and discussion for me to share this. I'm going to share this more in depth tomorrow. But basically, I had a lifelong frustration with patriarchy. What the result of patriarchy is some woundedness in women because we're not equal citizens, basically, with men in this patriarchy. It actually doesn't do anybody good. I wouldn't say it benefits men at all. It benefits hierarchy, men and women, basically. Upper echelon, at the expense of us misunderstanding each other. So that was the basic set of issues I was trying to understand. And the theme came in with vision and with information and conversation. He didn't expect me to believe who he was at first. I was really terrified of the prospect of being Anunnaki because all I had ever heard was the story of the Nephilim and other demons. And the thing is, we just have a situation that I've learned is that all beings that we come in contact with, including reptilians, rays, Anunnaki, whatever, there are ones that have different, orientations towards humanity, and some of them don't think a thing of us. They don't even notice. Some of them are kind of negative about us. It's negative about prospects, and we should kind of go away. We're kind of a weird experiment of hybridization. And others are, look at us and as he put it, sees the spark of the divine. And you got to understand that Anunnaki went from us being closed servants, to serve them, serve in the mind. We had to be their, I call it mini-me. We had to be shrunk down because when you have a mind, you notice over the centuries they had dwarves down in mines, many burrows that were down in mines. They used children because for every bit of height that you have in a tunnel, you have to dig away more tons of dirt. So generally speaking, when you have a mining operation, you want to have small beings, short animals carrying carts to be down in there. And so that's why they made us smaller than us, about half the size. But that initially making us the slave race. And so they didn't think anything of us as just, like robots or something. They didn't have any empathetic, empathy with us. But that changed. Over time, when our spirits began to grow, we began to become a species instead of a slave race. We began to develop a bio-mind. We began to make connection with each other. And that began to grow, and we're still kind of cousins to them. I mean, we have some of our genes coming from whatever they made us from here on the planet, Homo erectus, whatever, and themselves. And suddenly, we began to affect them as we grew in numbers. And this freaked them out enough to want to wipe us out during the flood, or let us be wiped out during the flood. But, I mean, over time, the connection to us, the feelings that they have towards us, either has grown into almost like a parental caring, like that good things happen to us, that we grow, that we ascend, to fear, loathing, and wanting to control. And so those are your basic two sides of the coin of how they feel about us. And so all of the confusion about sometimes, helping us and sometimes harming us is really coming from that. So this particular being used to be kind of cold toward us, and he set his mind over time as he dealt with us. And so here we are. I'm a descendant. We're shocking them at how fast we're growing from carts and, buggies and horse-drawn carriages and mud huts. And now we've, at least got nearer orbit, maybe once, twice a million. And, we're liable to bust out of our, constraints that we've been put under. But we have some problems. We have an economic system that got set up to make, debt slavery. And a lot of us are coming to the conclusion, we're realizing that we're growing, we are, and we're realizing that it's not suiting us. And we want a better deal. So this is just really interesting how this is exactly the kind of conversations I have with John, with Janet, and with Michael, and others. We have this set of conversations of what is going on and when are we going to grow up past the point we're at. So anyway, that's my 2 bits. Go ahead, John.
Well, that plays into what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. Since I'm going to be one of the last speakers to speak later on in the day, if I go over the history of the Anunnaki, I'm positive that a number of speakers before me will have already done that. So I decided I'm going to try and postulate as to what the future is going to be. And I've got a pretty good handle on what I've received from Enlil, Enki, Anu, and the Anunnaki hierarchy. And what I do believe is that Enlil, who has portrayed himself as God to Judeo-Christians for thousands and thousands of years, to receive our prayer energy. We pray to him. He can receive this energy. He can turn it into energy that makes him exponentially more powerful within his own God, self, and soul. And where this was making him more powerful in the past, it's now making him weak, because the higher gods rule the heavens, the lower gods rule the planets and the underworld. And he wants to be counted amongst and be considered one of the higher gods, so he could boss around an alien creator god below him. But as long as we pull this tractor beam of him through prayer energy, then he's never going to be able to ascend beyond us. Also, when we die, if we prayed to him and believed him to be our real God, then he would take ownership of our souls in the afterlife, and we would actually go to a version of heaven that he created, or a version of hell that he created. He created his own heaven and hell, neither which are heaven and hell. And your soul can get stuck in those that recycle bin for perhaps even 100 lifetimes, because that's what you believe, and you think that you actually went to the godlight, but you didn't go to the godlight. You went to his version of heaven, which shows you a light. So you think that you went to the light. You went to a light, but you didn't go to his light. So now I think a big part of disclosure is Enlil being instrumental in this process of letting we humans know that we have been worshiping extraterrestrials and we haven't been worshiping God, that there is monotheism, there is one God. Religion divides us and separates us, along with our languages, our cultures, and traditions. And what it basically makes us do, it just makes us fight and war against each other. And that's making him weak, it's making our planet weak, and it's making us weak. And for us to achieve enlightenment, we all have to come to terms with the concept that there is one. There is one in the universe, that we're all part of that one. The most important race on this planet is the human race, which we're all a part of. I don't care what color you are, what religion you are. And when we can come to terms that we all come from the same single source, we can achieve enlightenment. But we need the extraterrestrials' help. And I believe that individuals like us and everybody on this panel tomorrow, we have to take the torch as if we are the progenitors to spread this information, to proliferate these messages from the Anunnaki, so that we can all grow together towards the godlight, and grow as a planet as well, and take control of our proper place in the universe. And then something else. I was on a show with a hypnotic regression therapist named Leslie Mitchell Clark on Contact TV a couple weeks ago, and she's a great host, and her co-host is named Wes Roberts, and they do a great job. And anyway, they have their own YouTube channel, so everything, I can see them, they can see me. We're doing the show live, and at the end of the show, she told me that she could see an angel on my right shoulder, and that a year ago I was on the show, and she had a dream where a goddess that had golden skin was wearing a Greco-Roman kind of off-white robe, like you'd see in biblical figures, and had like white hair and big glowing eyes, and they were shaped kind of almond-shaped like Asians would have. And she said that she's on this being's planet in her dream, and it's kind of like Northern Europe, she said. Kind of mountainous, a little cool, but very beautiful. The sun looks different in the northern hemisphere than it does in the southern hemisphere. And anyway, it was just an enchanting kind of experience, and it was more than just a dream. It was an astral projection, an astral travel kind of episode experience. And she explained this to me in detail, and I thought, wow, that is just simply fascinating. And so we decided that we're going to do a hypnotic regression on July 7th, and we're going to actually record it, and we're going to put it on the air. And she said, well, what do you want to find out about the most? I said, I want to find out about the blue beings at the conference and what happened when I blacked out, and then the follow-up abductions I've had since then. That's what I want to find out, because I can't remember everything. That's what I want to find out. And now, you know, I'm going to tie it all into the Anunnaki. I want to find out all that information, and hopefully she can do it, because I've had a number of hypnotic regression therapists tell me that they would do it, and they never did it. And so I had to come to the conclusion they're either lying to me or we're being blocked from each other, or I'm blocking them, or something in my higher alien self hierarchy is blocking them because the timing is not right. So we decided on July 7th, and we're going to record it. And she's never done anything like that before in 10 years of doing these kind of shows. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Interesting. So there was a lot of information. I'm trying to digest it all. You were talking about, I want to go back to what you were saying before, John. There is a concept. There's there is a subdivision of the heavens, so to speak, where we have a little part of existence that's off in this matrix, and we're spinning our wheels in this matrix, going in and out of incarnations, and that person is it's some kind of god, and it was like a virtual reality game, and all of existence was looking at this little sub game that was going on in the greater game, and they said, well, we're going to be a part of it too. So they actually had to lower their vibratory frequency to come down into this little sub game, and then they got trapped in it. They're going back and forth in and out of incarnations, and you know, they can't escape the cycles of reincarnation, but it's kind of hard. You know, they have to become awakened and conscious that they're in a game. I read that years ago, and I went, wow, that's quite profound. And so what you were just saying about Enlil creating some kind of, I didn't quite digest that all. Sorry, because you were saying one thing and then you switched to another, so my mind got overloaded what you said the second part. But I think that God, the term God, is just a title. It's like king, it's like ruler, it's like boss. When I think of the highest level of consciousness, the universal consciousness, I call that source. But I think if we really get back to the meaning of the word God, it's just a title, like king, like Lord. The Lord God. It's basically the same thing. It's some kind of Anunnaki term that we've it's been mixed up in our subconscious and consciousness so that we think it's actually source. And I identify more strongly with the universal consciousness, oneness. Not that there's an external God, but that there's source within each and every one of us, and we are all subparsings, part of source, experiencing existence, experiencing life and lives, and simultaneous incarnations, and we are still all connected, and we just have the illusion that we're separate in order to have someone to talk to and someone to make love to and someone to share experiences. So that's how I perceive that. Of course, the Anunnaki could have become aware of the game within the game. Errol the Grey, she was interviewed at Roswell by the nurse and the military watching. She said that this is a prison planet. There's a little sub-matrix here, that they're outside of it, and they send their people down here to try to help humanity. And the main reason they're trying to help humanity is because somewhere about 1,000 years ago or so, their group of, let's call them Greys, but Greys is just an avatar, they assume, but it's a soul group. The Grey soul group, they came down around Tibet, and then something happened that they got trapped in this matrix. And so they too are in the cycle of souls and reincarnation, and they're trying to rescue their own people and So they also, since they're rescuing their own people, they, have come to love humanity, and they're helping us get out of this cycle, this vicious cycle of life, death, birth, rebirth, et cetera, et cetera. So these are some concepts that I've read and I've wrapped my head around, and in my reflections and meditation and contemplations, as I try to figure out why are we here, what are we doing here, and what are the connections with all the stories within the stories, like the Anunnaki, the Greys, the reptilians, and who's here, who's not here, who's indigenous, who came later. Does that even matter? Apparently life is, and life sends its seeds and tendrils throughout the cosmos, and then they land in the different places, and also they're brought here intentionally by terraformers that intentionally take all different life forms to different environments, and they let them loose, and they see what they, evolve into to further diversify creation and be co-creators with God's source and universal consciousness. So that's how I see it. I don't know how I'll symbol it this time next year, because life is a process of continually ingesting information that comes from all around us. I suffer, like many people, with information overload. Although that's part of my soul agreement when I came here into this dimension, to be here at this time, which of course time is illusion, because this is the greatest show in existence anywhere, and I got front row center seats, and I, on some level, am enjoying the ride and not liking it at the same time, which is really conflicting, but Karen and I talk on those levels as well. How do we deal with this all? And at the end of the day, we sleep and wake up, and we look for the essence, and we do this show, and we interview people, we get interviewed, we write books, we do our research, we collaborate with others, we meet with all the other investigators in the UFO, extraterrestrial, paranormal, exopolitics, disclosure field. And my goal is by the end of 2016, we have greater clarity about what is really going on. We have disclosure, because with disclosure we have the cure for all diseases, including the disease of aging. We have free, clean, green energy systems. We'll stop killing our planet. We can open up the space and be aware of the Star Trekian and other secret space programs. And perhaps I encourage people out there who really like the military, it's when the disclosure comes, go sign up for the Federation. But what did they call the school on Star Trek? Go to, I don't know, I'll pass it to Karen. She'll remember it. What was that school called? I'm going to go to Starfleet. Yeah, go to Starfleet Academy. You can get rejuvenated back to 20 and, go out and explore the universe with other beings of all races, colors, skin colors. Yes, there, John. Yes, Santa Claus. Yes. What was her name? Yes, Virginia. There is a Santa Claus. Yes, John. There are blue aliens. And some of them visit and go to conferences in Maine. With that, Karen, back to you. What more can I say? Yes, they were there. Of course they're there. They're probably, you have had lunch with them and tea, and you may even have made love with them, because they walk among us. They are us. We are they. They're hybrids. We hybridize with them all the time, and this experiment in mixing up DNA has been going on for millions, if not billions of years. And as Errol the Great told the people at Roswell who held her hostage, no one owns their DNA. It belongs to the universe. And so did Robert Heinlein, by the way, said the same thing. Karen, your turn. Hello? Karen,
I guess her call dropped. Yeah.
Okay, let's go see what happened. I'll look at the board. I was going to go get a cup of tea, but let's see if she can. Maybe she's on mute. She's trying to talk. She's there. I have her on mute. Karen?
Oh, yeah.
Dropped. When you come back, you're muted. So thanks.
Well, that's because I fell in the black hole. I fell in the invisible trapdoor, and here I am. I'm back. Actually, I
did you hear any of
the
exchange that Chad and I had? Or
I was I heard everything. I just called right back and you hadn't got to me yet. But it's Starfleet Academy. Starfleet Academy extensively is in San Francisco, and in the future, and that's where everybody goes to become a Starfleet officer and ostensibly to go from whatever provincial home they're in and meet aliens and intermingle. And while we're fighting over shades of gray, there are shades of brown of all different colors. Oh, my God, there's blues, there's the green. I have telepathic contact with the greens. Yes, there are little green men. And, the grays, all colors of grays. There's really, really diverse universe out there. There are giants. There's the Titan-level giants that are between some of them 36 feet tall, some of them even taller than that have interacted with Earth. Apparently, in Easter Island, the statues' heads, they have bodies. If you dig down, the statues have bodies. And that's where a type of alien that visited the island or people there. The story of the Titans, which were fighting the Olympians, and the Olympians would have been like 6 to 9 feet tall fighting the Titans, which was kind of their parents, really. The Titans being the 30 to 50 degree range. The white, tall beings, giants that were talked about by the native people that were a menace, really, because they're basically hunting humans. It was cool. People say, oh, they were cannibals. Well, they weren't eating each other. They were eating us, little tiny humans running around with like food to them. It was pretty bad. They pretty much got wiped out. A lot of stories between the Native American people and about these stories of these giants and how they finally had to, kind of chase them down, get rid of them. I mean, our planetary history, what's currently out there, what's under our feet, my goodness. I've been told there's more real estate, as it were, more like, stuff that's been developed, I suppose you'd say, under our feet than is on the surface, because it is dangerous to live on the surface. In fact, we've gone underground many times to get out of harm's way, out of years of cataclysms during the Ice Age and whatnot. The story of Noah's flood is just one aspect of a bunch of cataclysms that happened. And, we've only been told this short Reader's Digest version of our history that starts with Adam and Eve story. I think we just simplified this. Like, look, they're going to ask a lot of questions. Let's just make a book, a simple book, and and that was the start of a lot of wars. But, I mean, it's very complex, and this is all coming out. I mean, we're hearing about it on shows like Ancient Aliens. For a history person, an alternative history person like me, it's a wonderful time to be alive because this stuff was really hard to find in dusty old books back when you used to have to use a card catalog system. Now it's online. There's hundreds of new researchers coming out with, they'll dig deep into some area. I mean, it's crazy. It's a great time to be alive. And then trying to get a grip on galactic history, there's many people that have been clued in on galactic history. People who've been in the space program have been exposed to galactic history, people in the military who, had a need to know, right? They had the need to know. They got to know. We didn't. This stuff has been written about in ancient texts. I mean, it's on. It's a steady stream now of information we've never heard of before. And I think the biggest thing is that researchers can talk to each other so easily by phone and email and whatnot and compare notes because that accelerates. Ascension would have to be, in part, new information coming to a system, and that's what chaos theory and other theories of studying information sciences say, that a system changes when new information comes in. If you've got some kind of model and you want it to be more accurate, you have to add more levels of information and new types of information. And the more that you do that, the better accurate your model is going to be of reality. So this is what's happening. It's pretty exciting. I love talking to you guys offline. I wish we could just totally plug us in some of the conversations. Our conversations are off the hook. And those are just kind of sitting in the, front seat, so to speak, or the fringe, depending on how you want to look at it. It's exhausting, frustrating. Many of us are targeted. Our computers and phones and everything are targeted. In the past, sometimes we've even been, interfered with by agents and other kinds of things, almost like the internet. in the Matrix, and dismissed right now. But I mean, I think there's been some kind of weird signal that's gone out. Let them rip, let them go, let them talk. It seems like the flack that most of us gotten, we've talked about this with Tim Johnston as well, has only made people bolder. Like they've gotten some flack, they had some times where they're scared to death, and it's like, you know what, darn it, I'm going to tell the story and tell somebody to listen, And it's emboldened people. And I think that's super exciting. If there's anything that makes me believe we're close to ascension at any time, it's the boldness of people who have these experiences and willing to come out in spite of the fact that every once in a while somebody dies mysteriously or suddenly shuts up for some reason we don't know. So anyway, we're starting this conference process. I wanted to give you guys, I don't even think you guys have it, is a short URL that I made for the conference tomorrow. It's 10 to 6 p.m. It's Pacific time, and it's Ancient Aliens, Anunnaki, and the Gods. And I have a shortened URL because it's a really long URL to get to the actual description and place to get a ticket. I've got tinyurl, tinyurl.com /Ancient Gods Conference, Ancient Gods Conference. So that gets you to the quickest way, shortest way to the page. It's tinyurl.com /Ancient Gods Conference. And that gets you right there. And we're going to have 6 speakers. I'm one, John one, Janet's one. That's Sasha and Bob Evans and Glenn Bogue. And it's just going to be amazing. River, trying to learn the new platform and get our slides done and all that. We've got butterflies. But we're doing this. We're doing this online conference thing because we just, if we did a conference every week, I don't know if we could get all the information out that's just flying at us right now. But we're trying this format, and I hope you guys come along because it's going to be really great. And with that, I will hand over to Kim.
Hello?
Anybody there? Hello?
Yeah, I'm ready.
John, go ahead. Go ahead. John, go into it a little bit more.
John,
what you're talking about.
Back to you, John. Take it away.
So Janet, back to what you were saying about the Matrix and getting caught up in the Matrix and the soul recycling bin. That what you said, you explained it differently than the way I explained it, but in my estimation, we were explaining the same kind of thing, which I find very interesting. I like the term Matrix. If you've watched the movie The Matrix, I believe we all have. Merovingian, remember him? He was the French guy, the bad guy, on the dark side of the Matrix. But he said to Keanu Reeves, he said, your predecessors had a lot more respect. And then Keanu is kind of, like, what do you mean my predecessors? As if he didn't realize that he wasn't the first one, that there had been many who were the chosen one, who had been the one. And, when he heard that, it kind of smacked him in the head because I don't think he, at least his character wasn't privy to that information at all, that he wasn't the first one, that this had been going on for perhaps an eternity. As time is not linear, it is cyclical, which means, just like a wedding ring, it's that circle that just keeps going and going and going. It has no beginning and no end. And that's a hard concept for, we humans here in the 3D Earth plane to wrap our head around. But since, the topic is ancient aliens, Anunnaki, and the gods, I was doing some research, which I already knew, but I wanted to research it some more, which I found interesting. So back in 1849 in Mosul, Iraq, there was an excavation of the biblical city of Nineveh by British archaeologist Austin Henry Layard. And he discovered ancient library of, it was an Assyrian library of Ashurbanipal. And then they found 7 cuneiform tablets called the Enuma Elish, or the 7 tablets of creation. And the tablets told the story of the Anunnaki who came to Earth and gave birth to the human race, but also how they first colonized Mars and used Mars as a supply base and a station between Nibiru and the Earth. And until that there was, some kind of catastrophe, which supposedly dated back about 65 million years ago, where there was either a nuclear war, a war among the gods, or perhaps a meteor crashed into Mars and stripped it of its atmosphere. Curiously, if it is 65 million years ago, I don't know if that's an exact figure or not, but that's around the time that the dinosaurs got wiped out. So interesting timing there. But also I wanted to completely change gears here and talk about Enoch. Enoch, I believe, is incredibly instrumental as part of the Anunnaki pantheon of being, ultimately he became known as the scribe of the gods. But in 1947, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, and there was the apocryphy texts, which were omitted from the Bible. They were considering put them in the Bible, but they chose not to because it divulged too much information about the Anunnaki and the fallen angels. But he referred to the fallen angels as the guardians of the sky, and that Enoch was actually the great-grandfather of Noah. And so Noah's father was accusing Noah's mother of cheating on him because Noah was a virgin birth. And so they fought about it for some time, and eventually Noah's father, I can't remember his name, but Noah's father went to Noah's great-grandfather, who was Enoch. And Enoch said that you need to accept this child because he's going to be the future of the human race. And after that happened, after the flood, Noah and Methuselah, right around that same time period, lived to be 800 or 900 years old. But after the flood, humans started to have a much shorter lifespan. So, and Karen and I were talking about this the other day, that, Enlil really loved his initial product, which was we primitive humans that were working in the mines. And really only after, the fallen angels came down to earth, Genesis 6, the sons of the gods descended to earth and mated with the daughters of men and basically created the Nephilim or the Nephilim. And when they did that, the Nephilim started interbreeding with we primitive humans also. And so we had all these human-alien hybrids running around, and that the Anunnaki were having trouble controlling everybody. And that was a huge reason why he flooded the earth, because procreation was out of control and the human-alien hybrids were unruly. They had supernatural powers because they had Anunnaki blood in them, as I do believe that all biblical figures and all figures in the Book of Enoch, all the figures in the Dead Sea Scrolls, in the Talmud, in the Hebrew Bible, of course the King James Bible, I believe that all biblical figures, especially those with any kind of gifts or powers, the patriarchs, of course Jesus Christ the deity, Jesus Christ's disciples, anybody close to Jesus Christ, even John the Baptist before him, which possibly Jesus was a reincarnation of John the Baptist, anybody in biblical times that had supernatural powers, in my mind, is Anunnaki, or at least a human-alien hybrid of the Anunnaki. And I just think that that's something that we need to talk about more. Enoch.
Well, I agree.
Hi.
With us, Janet?
Is it my turn? Oh, I'm sorry. My husband came home. So I think Glenn Polk's going to talk to us about how, on the conference tomorrow, how Jesus is actually Enki, and Mary, his wife, is actually Nimma, and that they didn't stop people that died. It's just a twisting of the story. And he will systematically show from his research how he can basically prove it the best he can. He's an attorney, so he has that type of worldview and discipline. But I got long ago that Jesus is an Anunnaki, and I've done a number of stories going back a number of years, so now Jesus is an Anunnaki. But when I heard Glenn Bogue's story, and it just hit me on many levels. First of all, when I hear truth, I get goosebumps. And when I heard how the virgin birth is just a twisting of the story of the creation of humanity in the lab in South Africa by Nimma and her team, who was Enki and Nagashita. Ninma was in charge. They tend to, since they rewrote history, is to give her a second-class secondary position, like she was working with them. But she was actually the genius that figured out the combination that would create a species, Homo sapiens, and then Homo sapiens sapiens, which could do things, besides wet its own pants and not be able to talk using the tongue and the mouth and the voice box. So she created these beings that were intelligent enough to do things. They could be scribes, they could work the mines, they could do physical, and they could be mayors and governors and all kinds of stuff. But they were dumb enough to be controlled. So 256 strands of our DNA have been dummied down, and right now we're experiencing a further dummification process by being exposed to mind control, especially through the media. Anyone who watches Fox News, they will get Fox News, and they will be controlled by this Illuminati matrix media that wants to keep us in the matrix and not understanding the greater picture and the greater design. So religions were basically created as psychological warfare against humanity to keep us further entranced in the hypnotic suggestion that these beings were superior and we need to bow down to them, we need to pray to them. Marduk came along at one point and he created monotheism by saying, I am the only God and all the other gods are myths and there are no other gods before us. But how could there be other gods if there's only one God, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not sure where we are in the show. I would like to kind of wrap it up because something else has come up. So can we make this round the concluding remarks, and then we'll call it a day? We can always pick up this subject at another time. And I do want to remind everybody, tomorrow is the conference. We're going to go into great depth about our information, and we're going to present a PowerPoint presentation or some kind of slides and talk type things. So I do encourage you to tune in tomorrow. We have a link that's gone up on Aquarian Radio .com under conferences. I'm going to go handle something, and then I'll put that up as a brand new posting, so it'll show at the top of the page. We do encourage you to go to the link and register. I don't even remember what the price is. It's very, very reasonable. There are 6 presenters, hours of presentations with information and evidence of what's going on in this planet on a level that has never been revealed before. Karen, your turn.
I'm here.
Oh, good. I thought you dropped off again.
No, I was trying to check the price on I have this, I was trying to check, but it's less than $50. Let's just say that. 6 presenters. I don't know if you had time to talk about what Sasha's presenting or you're presenting, but it's Sasha and Janet Lessin. It's Bob Evans. It's Glenn Vogue, Karen Patrick, John Polk. Very exciting. I love working with all these people. We'll be there listening and learning, and this is as much a learning for us as it is for everyone else. I mean, you're getting a really cutting-edge stuff. I know that I'm bringing stuff that really isn't generally known about the moon. It'll be coming out, but you'll have to wait for it. But it's like tomorrow you wouldn't have to wait for it. You see it right there. And, the story with John with the blue people, that's going to be coming out of the book later in the year, or you can hear it tomorrow. I mean, if you're really curious about it. So it's a new platform for us. It's Portal to Ascension, or portaltoascension.org. And I'm just excited to do an online conference platform. We're going to be looking into doing more of these in the future because, we're always kind of way out ahead, and then we have to kind of go back and explain what we've been doing. And we can get a lot closer to the fringe and cutting edge of our own information by doing a format like this. We'll be able to share slides and visual stuff that's real compelling. Just fresh out of the box. I mean, some of the stuff I'll be showing will be presented in Roswell. If you happen to be going to the Roswell UFO Festival. Please come and find. We're going to have a table there with Ken Johnston. You get to meet myself and Brett and Ken, and he's hand autographing all his CDs. And we also have books, and we'll have these books. If you want to see some of the photos close up, you'll be able to do that. Some printed out books. But it's this is just happening right now, and then we're turning around and bringing it right to the conference, which is awesome. Wonderful opportunity. We don't even have to melt in the desert. It's kind of hot here where I'm at. I'm in New Mexico. It's going to be 101 this weekend. You guys don't have to melt tomorrow in New Mexico. You can just be in your home with the air conditioner on and watch this conference. So, be there. It's going to be awesome. Back to you, John.
I think you summed it up pretty good, Karen. So just quickly, we all had an open dialogue with Neil earlier today, and he understands this format and platform very, very well. And often people that are really good with computers are not really good at explaining how to do it. They leave steps out. They often leave out steps that to them are obvious. But to people like me that are not really good at computers, these steps are not obvious. But he did a really good job. I was a little intimidated by it, but he was good. He was very smooth and composed, and he was very patient with me. And because of that, he explained it all to me within a couple minutes. And I said, please forgive me. I'm usually not really good at this. He's like, man, trust me, you're really good. He said, I spent like over an hour with somebody trying to get him to figure this stuff out. I'm like, wow. Okay, well, that made me feel a whole lot better. So, Janet, I don't know how you met Neil, but thank God you did, because this platform, this format, this approach to Internet, it's not even Internet radio. It's basically Internet television. This is the way to go. This is the way of the future. And I would certainly like to do as many of these as humanly possible. That's for sure.
We will. We will do more. Okay, well, I appreciate everybody showing up today and listening to us as we talk about what we're going to be talking about. And I look forward to our show tomorrow, which is starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And the link is on portaltoascension.org, and where you can register. And we do encourage you to send the information around to all your friends and those who might be interested in the subject. We learned kind of late that Facebook is not the best place to advertise, but maybe we can make that a thing of the past and make Facebook the best place to advertise, because it's time for people to tune into this information, to wake up, to free all of humanity from this perverted matrix and get into the paradigm of love and universal consciousness. So with that, I bid you upon adieu. And hold on while I get through this door so I can go end the show with some exit outro music. Hold on one second here. As I get back to I can actually walk around while I'm doing the show. All right, everybody, much love and blessings and aloha to everyone.
Aloha,
and tune in tomorrow. Mahalo, blessings, goodbye.
Want entertainment designed just for you? Then check out customizable streaming TV from Xfinity. It makes your life simple, easy, awesome.
Xfinity gives you customizable streaming TV options. Enjoy the most free shows anywhere on any device, and even access your streaming apps right on your TV with X1. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today to learn more. Restrictions apply.